Maya remembered the exact moment she realized she was alone in the world. She was 7 years old, sitting on a metal folding chair in a social worker's office, her small legs dangling above the floor. The woman behind the desk had kind eyes but a tired smile, and she'd explained in the gentlest voice possible that there were no relatives who could take Maya in. No grandparents, no aunts or uncles, no distant cousins willing to open their doors. Her mother had passed away after a long illness and her father had never been in the picture. The state would take care of her now, the woman promised. She'd be safe. She'd be fed and clothed and sent to school. But as Maya looked around that sterile office with its beige walls and fluorescent lights, she understood something that would shape the rest of her childhood. Safe wasn't the same as wanted, and being taken care of wasn't the same as being loved. The children's home became her world after that. It wasn't a terrible place. The staff did their best with limited resources, and Maya never went hungry or cold. But it was a place where everything felt temporary. The other kids came and went. Some got adopted by families who wanted them. Others moved to foster homes carrying their belongings in black garbage bags, hope written across their faces. Maya went to a few foster homes herself over the years. There was the couple who seemed nice at first but really just wanted someone to help with their farm chores. Then the single woman who had too many kids already and not enough patience for one more. Each placement ended the same way, with Maya being driven back to the children's home, watching the scenery blur past the car window and wondering what was wrong with her. Why didn't anyone want to keep her? By the time she was 16, Maya had stopped hoping for a family. She focused on school instead, earning decent grades and staying out of trouble. She wasn't the smartest kid or the most talented, but she was reliable. That's what her teacher said. Reliable. It wasn't exactly a compliment that made your heart soar, but it was something. When she turned 18, the state's responsibility for her officially ended. They called it aging out of the system. Maya called it being set loose in a world she wasn't sure she understood. She had a high school diploma, a small amount of money saved from part-time jobs, and absolutely no idea what came next. She found a tiny studio apartment in a part of town where the rent was cheap, because nothing else was particularly nice. The building was old, with pipes that clanked at night and neighbors who played their music too loud. But it was hers. For the first time in her life, Maya had a space that belonged to her alone. She got a job at a diner called Ruby's, a 24-hour place that served breakfast all day and attracted a mix of truckers, night shift workers, and people with nowhere else to go. The work was hard. Her feet ached after every shift, and the smell of fryer grease clung to her hair and clothes. But the pay was steady, and her manager, a woman named Gloria with a raspy voice and a big laugh, didn't ask too many questions about her past. The months turned into years, and Maya fell into a routine. She worked the evening shift, usually getting home around midnight. She'd heat up whatever leftovers she'd brought from the diner, eat alone while watching old sitcoms on her secondhand television, then fall asleep on her lumpy couch. In the morning, she'd wake up and do it all over again. On her days off, she'd walk around the neighborhood or sit in the small park near her apartment, watching families play together and wondering what that must feel like. She tried to make friends with her coworkers, but most of them had their own lives, their own families to go home to. Maya was always on the outside looking in, a role she'd played for as long as she could remember. Sometimes, late at night when sleep wouldn't come, Maya would lie in the dark and wonder if this was all there was. She wasn't unhappy exactly. She had survived. She had a roof over her head and food in her refrigerator. She was independent and self-sufficient, which was more than some people could say. But there was a hollow feeling inside her chest, an emptiness that no amount of work or distraction could fill. She'd read stories about people finding their purpose, discovering what they were meant to do in life. But Maya couldn't imagine what her purpose might be. She didn't have any special talents or big dreams. She was just getting by one day at a time, and most days that felt like enough. Most days, but not all. The diner became her second home in a way. She knew the menu by heart, knew which customers wanted their coffee black and which ones needed extra napkins with their pie. She learned to read people's moods, to know when someone wanted to chat and when they just wanted to be left alone with their thoughts. There was something comforting about the predictability of it all. The same booths, the same faces, the same orders. In a life that had been full of uncertainty and change, the diner was the one constant she could count on. Gloria took a liking to Maya, probably because she never called in sick and always showed up on time. Sometimes, during the slow afternoon hours, Gloria would sit with her at the counter and talk about her own life. She had 3 grown kids and a bunch of grandchildren whose pictures she kept in her wallet. She'd pull them out and show Maya, pointing to each smiling face and rattling off names and ages. Maya would nod and smile, genuinely happy for Gloria, but it always left her with a strange ache afterward. She'd never have photos like that. No family albums or holiday gatherings or people who shared her eyes or her laugh. One evening, as Maya was wiping down tables near the end of her shift, a couple came in with a baby. The mother was young, maybe mid-20s, and she had that exhausted but glowing look that new parents seem to have. The father carried the infant carefully like she was made of glass, and they chose a booth near the window. Maya took their order and brought them coffee, and she couldn't help but watch them from across the diner. The way they looked at each other, the way they both reached for the baby at the same time and laughed. The quiet intimacy of it all. That's what she was missing, Maya realized. Not just a family, but connection. That feeling of being part of something bigger than yourself, of mattering to someone. When her shift ended that night, Maya walked home through streets that were starting to empty out. The city always looked different at midnight, quieter, somehow lonelier. She thought about the couple in the diner, about the life they were building together. She thought about Gloria and her wallet full of grandchildren. And she thought about herself, 23 years old and living like someone twice her age. She'd survived her childhood, survived aging out of the system, survived on her own. But surviving wasn't the same as living. And lately, Maya was starting to wonder if she'd ever figure out the difference. Back in her apartment, she kicked off her shoes and fell onto her couch without even changing out of her uniform. The television remote was somewhere between the cushions, but she didn't bother looking for it. The silence felt heavier than usual tonight. Maya stared at the ceiling, at the water stain that looked vaguely like a cloud, and felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She wasn't the type to cry. She'd learned a long time ago that tears didn't change anything, but tonight she let a few fall anyway, let them slide down her temples and into her hair. She cried for the little girl in the social worker's office who'd learned too young that she was alone. She cried for all the years in between, all the temporary places and temporary people, and she cried for this present moment, this empty apartment and this empty life and the fear that it might never change. Tomorrow she'd wake up and go to work and do it all again. But tonight, just for tonight, Maya let herself feel the full weight of her loneliness, and in that moment she had no way of knowing that everything was about to change, that a rainy evening and a chance encounter were waiting just around the corner, that the emptiness she felt so keenly would soon be filled in ways she couldn't imagine. Sometimes life works like that. Sometimes the darkest moment comes right before the light breaks through. The rain came down in sheets that Thursday evening, the kind of storm that sends people running for cover and turns the streets into rivers. Maya's shift had been busier than usual, everyone seeking refuge in the warm glow of the diner, ordering coffee and pie while they waited out the weather. By the time she clocked out at 11, her feet were screaming, and her lower back ached from hours of carrying heavy trays. Gloria had already left, and the night manager, a quiet guy named Tom, was handling the handful of customers who remained. Maya pulled her jacket tight and stepped out into the downpour. She'd forgotten her umbrella again, but the walk home was only 4 blocks. She could handle it. The rain was cold against her face, soaking through her jacket within seconds. She kept her head down, watching her feet splash through puddles, just focused on getting home to a hot shower and her couch. She was cutting through the alley behind the diner, a shortcut she'd taken hundreds of times when she heard it. A soft sound almost lost in the noise of the rain. A sniffle, maybe a cough. Maya slowed her pace, peering through the darkness toward the dumpsters. At first she didn't see anything, just shadows and rain and the dim yellow light from a street lamp at the alley's end. But then the shadows moved, and Maya's breath caught in her throat. A girl was huddled against the brick wall, tucked between 2 dumpsters in what little shelter the overhang provided. She was young, maybe 15 or 16, with dark hair plastered to her face and clothes that were soaked through. Her arms were wrapped around her knees, and she was shivering so hard that Maya could see it even from several feet away. Their eyes met, and the girl flinched, pressing herself harder against the wall like she was trying to disappear into it. Maya should have kept walking. That's what most people would do. Mind your own business. Don't get involved. She had enough problems of her own without taking on someone else's. But something made her stop. Maybe it was the way the girl looked so small and scared. Maybe it was the memory of being young and alone herself. Or maybe it was just that hollow feeling in her chest recognizing a matching emptiness in someone else. She took a step closer, moving slowly so she wouldn't startle the girl. The rain was so loud that she had to raise her voice to be heard. "Hey, are you okay?" The girl didn't answer, just stared at her with wide, wary eyes. She couldn't have been out here long, Maya thought, or she'd probably be in worse shape. But her lips had a bluish tint, and her shivering was the kind that comes from being cold to the bone. Maya tried again. "Do you need help? Are you hurt?" Still nothing, just that frightened stare. Maya looked around the alley, half expecting to see someone else, maybe parents searching for a runaway or friends who'd left her behind. But they were alone. Just two people in a rainy alley, one of them clearly in trouble. "I work here," Maya said, gesturing toward the diner. "At Ruby's, I'm just trying to get home." She paused, then added, "You can't stay out here. The storm's supposed to get worse." The girl's voice, when it finally came, was barely a whisper. "I'm fine. You're not fine. You're soaking wet and freezing." Maya took another small step forward. "When's the last time you ate something?" The question seemed to catch the girl off guard. Her expression shifted slightly, and Maya saw the answer before she spoke. "This morning." "That's what I thought." Maya made a decision then, one that would change both their lives, though she didn't know it yet. "Look, I live close by. You can come dry off, get warm. I'll make you something to eat. Then, I don't know. We'll figure it out." The girl's eyes narrowed with suspicion. "I don't know you. That's fair. I'm Maya." She waited, but the girl didn't offer her own name. "I'm not going to hurt you. I promise. But I can't just leave you here in the rain." They stood there in a silent standoff, rain pouring down around them. Maya was getting colder by the second, and she could only imagine how the girl felt. Finally, after what seemed like forever, the girl's shoulders sagged slightly. It wasn't exactly agreement, but it wasn't refusal either. Maya took it as permission and gestured for her to follow. The walk to Maya's apartment was awkward and quiet. The girl kept several paces behind, and every time Maya glanced back, she looked ready to bolt. But she kept following step by step through the rain-soaked streets. When they finally reached the building, Maya's hands were shaking so much from the cold that she could barely get her key in the lock. The apartment must have looked small and shabby to fresh eyes, Maya thought as she flipped on the lights. The furniture was all second-hand, the walls needed paint, and there were water stains on the ceiling. But it was warm and dry, and right now that was all that mattered. The girl stood just inside the door, dripping onto the worn carpet, looking like she might run at any moment. "Bathroom's there," Maya said, pointing. "I'll find you some dry clothes. They'll be too big, but it's better than what you've got on." She rummaged through her small closet and pulled out sweatpants and an old t-shirt, leaving them outside the bathroom door. Then she changed into her own dry clothes and tried to think about what food she had that could be made quickly. The shower ran for a long time. Maya made grilled cheese sandwiches and heated up some tomato soup, the kind that came from a can but tasted like comfort anyway. When the girl finally emerged, her hair was still damp, but at least she wasn't shaking anymore. She looked even younger in the oversized clothes, more like a kid playing dress-up than a teenager living on the streets. They sat at Maya's small kitchen table, the girl attacking her food like she hadn't eaten in days, which was probably close to the truth. Maya ate her own sandwich slowly, not wanting to make her guest feel self-conscious. When the girl reached for a second sandwich, Maya pushed the plate closer without comment. "I'm Lily," the girl said finally, her voice still quiet but steadier now that she was warm and fed. "Nice to meet you, Lily." Maya wrapped her hands around her own bowl of soup. "You want to tell me why you were hiding behind a dumpster in the rain?" Lily's jaw tightened. "I wasn't hiding. I was just waiting. For what? For the rain to stop." It was obviously a lie, but Maya didn't push. "Not yet. Where are your parents, Lily?" "Don't have any. I'm in foster care." The words came out flat, emotionless. "Was in foster care." "I'm not going back." Maya's heart sank. She knew that tone. She'd used it herself more times than she could count. "What happened?" Lily shrugged, not meeting her eyes. "Same thing that always happens. It wasn't a good place. The guy my foster dad, he was..." She trailed off, but Maya understood. Some things didn't need to be said out loud. "How long have you been on the street?" 3 days. Lily's defenses seemed to lower slightly, maybe from exhaustion or maybe from the simple kindness of a warm meal. I stayed with a friend the first night, but her parents found out and… Anyway, I couldn't stay there. Then I've just been moving around, trying to find places to sleep where no one would bother me. Maya studied the girl across from her. Lily's nails were bitten down to the quick, and there were dark circles under her eyes that spoke of more than just 3 sleepless nights. This wasn't a kid who'd run away on a whim. This was someone who'd made a desperate choice because she felt like she had no other option. You're going to have to go back eventually, Maya said gently, or at least talk to your social worker. They'll report you missing. They probably already have. Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back fiercely. And they'll just send me back to the same house or someplace worse. You don't know what it's like. Actually, Maya said quietly, I do. That got Lily's attention. Maya hadn't planned to share her story. But seeing this scared kid sitting at her table, she suddenly wanted Lily to understand that she wasn't alone. So Maya told her about growing up in the children's home, about the foster placements that didn't work out, about aging out of the system and building a life alone. She didn't make it sound dramatic or try to draw comparisons. She just spoke honestly about what her life had been like. Lily listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from suspicious to surprised to something that looked almost like relief. When Maya finished, they sat in silence for a moment. Just 2 people who understood things that most others never had to think about. You can stay here tonight, Maya heard herself saying. It's late and you need sleep. Tomorrow we can figure out what to do next. I told you I'm not going back, I know. We'll figure something out. Maya had no idea what that something might be, but she couldn't send this kid back onto the streets. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. Lily ended up on the couch with Maya's spare blanket and pillow. Maya tried to sleep in her own bed, but her mind wouldn't stop racing. What was she doing? She could barely take care of herself. She had no business taking in a runaway teenager. But every time she thought about telling Lily to leave in the morning, about calling social services and washing her hands of the situation, something stopped her. She remembered being 15, remembered feeling trapped and scared and certain that nobody cared what happened to her. Morning came too soon, sunlight streaming through the thin curtains and landing directly on Maya's face. She'd maybe gotten 3 hours of sleep, her mind churning all night with questions she couldn't answer. When she finally dragged herself out of bed and shuffled into the living room, she found Lily awake, sitting upright on the couch with the blanket pulled tight around her shoulders. The girl looked tense, like she was ready to run at the first sign of trouble. Morning, Maya said, trying to sound casual despite the strangeness of having someone else in her apartment. You hungry? I don't have much, but I can make eggs. Lily nodded slowly, still watching Maya with those careful eyes. As Maya cracked eggs into a pan, she could feel the weight of the decision ahead of her. The smart thing, the responsible thing, would be to call Lily's caseworker. Let the professionals handle it. But Maya had grown up in that system. She knew how it worked and, more importantly, how it didn't work. Lily would get shuffled back into care, probably to the same home she'd run from or somewhere equally bad. She'd be labeled a runner, a problem kid, and the cycle would continue. They ate breakfast in silence, both lost in their own thoughts. Maya kept glancing at Lily, seeing more details in the morning light. The girl was thin, too thin, and there was an old bruise fading on her arm. Her clothes from yesterday, now hanging over the shower rod to dry, were worn and ill-fitting. Everything about her spoke of a kid who'd learned not to ask for much because she'd been disappointed too many times. So what happens now? Lily asked finally, pushing her eggs around her plate. I don't know, Maya admitted. But I meant what I said last night. I'm not sending you back if it's not safe. They'll come looking for me. Social services, I mean. And when they find out you're hiding a runaway, you'll get in trouble. Maya shrugged. Maybe. But let's think about this for a minute. How old are you exactly? 15. Almost 16. Okay, and you said your foster placement wasn't safe. If we can prove that, if we can get your caseworker to listen, maybe they'll find somewhere better for you. Lily let out a bitter laugh. You really think they'll listen? I've told them before. About other places. They just say I'm being difficult, that I need to adjust better. There's never enough good homes for all of us. So we get stuck wherever there's space. Maya's heart twisted because she knew Lily was right. She remembered her own pleas being dismissed, her concerns brushed aside. The system was overwhelmed, underfunded, and the kids in it were the ones who paid the price. Then we'll figure out something else, Maya said, surprising herself with the determination in her voice. You can stay here for now. We'll keep you safe while we work out the details. Just like that? Lily's eyes were wide with disbelief. You don't even know me. Why would you do this? Because nobody did it for me, Maya said simply. And I remember wishing someone would. Over the next few days, they fell into a strange new routine. Maya called in sick to work for the first time in years, telling Gloria she had the flu. She hated lying, but she needed time to figure things out. Lily stayed in the apartment, afraid to go outside where someone might recognize her. They talked a lot, filling the hours with conversation. Maya learned that Lily loved to draw but hadn't had supplies in years. That she was good at math but struggled with reading. That her mother had died when she was 8, and she'd been in the system ever since, bouncing from home to home. Maya found herself telling Lily things she'd never shared with anyone. About the loneliness of growing up without roots. About the fear she still carried that she didn't know how to connect with people, how to be part of something. It felt strange to open up like this, but also oddly freeing. Maybe it was easier because they were so similar. Or maybe Maya was just tired of keeping everything locked inside. On the third day, Maya knew she had to face reality. She couldn't keep Lily hidden forever, and she couldn't keep missing work. She made some calls, starting with Lily's caseworker. The conversation didn't go well. The woman was stressed and overworked, and she made it clear that Lily needed to return to her placement immediately. When Maya tried to express concerns about the home, she was told that an investigation had been opened months ago and found no evidence of wrongdoing. She's a scared kid, Maya argued. She ran away for a reason. She's a teenager who doesn't like following rules, the caseworker countered. If I removed every kid who complained about their placement, I'd have nowhere to put anyone. Lily needs to come back, and if you're harboring her, that's a serious problem. Maya hung up feeling defeated. She looked over at Lily, who was curled up on the couch, pretending to watch television, but clearly listening to every word. That didn't work, Maya admitted. Told you, Lily said quietly. Nobody listens, but Maya couldn't let it go. That night, after Lily had fallen asleep, she sat at her kitchen table with her laptop and started researching. There had to be something she could do. Some way to keep this kid safe. She read about foster care laws, about guardianship, about the process of becoming a foster parent herself. Most of what she found was discouraging. She was single, young, living in a tiny apartment with barely enough income to support herself. She wasn't exactly what the system was looking for, but then she found something interesting. In some cases, the state would grant guardianship to someone outside the traditional foster system if that person had a significant relationship with the child and could provide a stable home. It was rare, and it required a lot of paperwork and background checks and court appearances, but it was possible. Maya stared at the screen, her heart pounding. Was she really considering this? Taking legal responsibility for a teenager she'd met less than a week ago? It was crazy. She was completely unprepared. She didn't know the first thing about being a parent or guardian. Her own childhood had been devoid of any good examples. But then she thought about Lily sleeping on her couch, about the relief in the girl's eyes when Maya had said she could stay, about all the years Maya had spent feeling empty and purposeless. Maybe this was it. Maybe this was what she'd been missing. Not just someone to care about, but someone who needed her. Someone she could protect in all the ways she'd never been protected. The next morning, Maya made a decision. She called a legal aid office and scheduled an appointment. Then she sat down with Lily and explained what she was thinking. The girl's reaction was something Maya would never forget. First came the disbelief written clearly across her face, then confusion, as if this was some kind of trick, and finally cautiously hope. You want to be my guardian? Lily repeated like she needed to hear it again to believe it. I want to try, Maya said. I don't know if they'll approve it. I'm not exactly what they're looking for, but I'm willing to fight for it if you are. Lily's eyes filled with tears, and this time she didn't blink them back. Why would you do this for me? Maya reached across the table and took the girl's hand. Because you deserve someone who chooses you. Because I know what it feels like to be alone. And because... She paused, surprised by the emotion rising in her own throat. Because I think maybe we can help each other. You need a home, and I need to matter to someone. To be more than just a person taking up space in the world. They cried together then, two people who'd spent most of their lives holding back tears, finally letting them flow. It wasn't the answer to everything. There was still so much uncertainty ahead. But for the first time in longer than she could remember, Maya felt something other than that hollow emptiness. She felt purpose. She felt hope. And most of all, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The road ahead would be hard. She knew that. There would be legal battles and financial struggles and a million moments of doubt. But sitting there with Lily, watching a scared kid start to believe that someone actually wanted her, Maya knew she'd made the right choice. Sometimes saving someone else is the only way to save yourself. And sometimes family isn't about blood or paperwork. It's about choosing to show up, to care, to fight for someone when the whole world seems to have given up on them. Maya squeezed Lily's hand. "We'll figure this out together. I promise." And for the first time, making a promise didn't terrify her, because this time she knew she'd do everything in her power to keep it. The legal aid office was in a building that had seen better days, with fluorescent lights that flickered, and a waiting room full of people who all wore the same tired expression. Maya and Lily sat side by side on plastic chairs, both nervous, both trying not to show it. When their names were finally called, they met with a lawyer named Patricia Chen, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and no-nonsense demeanor. Patricia listened to their story without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When Maya finished explaining what she wanted to do, the lawyer leaned back in her chair and let out a long breath. "I'm not going to lie to you," Patricia said. "This is going to be difficult. You're young, you're single, you work a minimum wage job, and you live in a studio apartment. On paper, you're not going to look like an ideal guardian." Maya's stomach sank, but she'd expected this. "I know, but I can give her what she needs. A safe place, someone who cares about her. That matters," Patricia assured her. "But so does financial stability and living space. The court's primary concern is what's in Lily's best interest. They'll want to know you can support her, keep a roof over her head, help her get an education." She turned to Lily. "And they'll want to hear from you too, why you want this arrangement instead of traditional foster care." Lily sat up straighter. "Because Maya actually cares about me. Because she's the first person who's listened to me in years. I don't want to go back into the system. I want to stay with her." Patricia nodded slowly. "Okay, here's what we're dealing with. First, we need to file a petition for guardianship. That starts the legal process. Meanwhile, Lily, you're technically a runaway right now, which is a problem. We need to contact your caseworker and arrange for you to be placed with Maya temporarily, while the petition is pending. That's going to be tricky because Maya isn't an approved foster home. So what do? Maya asked. "We make a case that Maya is a kinship placement, not by blood but by relationship. We argue that sending Lily back to her previous foster home would cause harm, and that she has a significant bond with Maya that should be respected." The word kinship struck Maya as strange. She and Lily had known each other less than 2 weeks. But Patricia was right that there was a bond. Something had formed between them quickly, born from shared understanding and mutual need. The next weeks were a blur of paperwork, appointments, and bureaucracy. Maya got a background check, had her apartment inspected, submitted financial records that made her wince. The inspector who came to her studio apartment looked around with obvious skepticism, noting that there was only one bedroom, that the building was older and not in the best condition. Maya explained that she could put up a divider, give Lily her own space. She'd already started looking for a second job, something to bring in extra money. The hardest part was dealing with Lily's caseworker and the foster care system. They weren't happy about the situation. Maya could understand why. She was an unknown quantity, potentially disrupting their placement, but she stood firm with Patricia's help, arguing that Lily had the right to be heard, that her wishes should matter. There was a hearing scheduled, where a judge would decide whether to grant temporary guardianship, while the full investigation proceeded. Maya was terrified. She'd never been in a courtroom before. The night before the hearing, she couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, just paced her small apartment while Lily tried to reassure her. "It's going to be okay," Lily said, though she looked worried too. "What if it's not? What if they decide I'm not fit and they take you away? Then I'll run again." Lily's voice was fierce. "I'm not going back without a fight." "Don't say that." Maya sat down next to her on the couch. "If this doesn't work, we'll find another way. But you can't keep running. That's not a life. Neither is going back to people who don't want me." They held each other then, two people clinging to a hope that felt fragile and precious. Maya thought about how much had changed in just a few weeks. Her apartment felt different now with Lily in it. Less empty, less like a place she was just passing through. She'd started cooking real dinners instead of eating leftovers from the diner. They watched movies together in the evenings, arguing about which ones to choose. Lily had started drawing again, using supplies Maya had bought at a dollar store. The sketches were good, really good, and seeing them taped to the walls made the shabby apartment feel more like a home. The hearing was both better and worse than Maya had imagined. Better because Patricia argued their case beautifully, presenting Maya as a stable, caring adult who'd already demonstrated commitment to Lily's well-being. Worse because the state's attorney painted Maya as unqualified and impulsive, someone trying to play savior without understanding the responsibility involved. But then, Lily testified. The judge asked her questions about what she wanted, about why she'd run away, about her relationship with Maya, and Lily spoke from the heart. She talked about feeling invisible in the system, about bouncing between homes where she was just a paycheck or a burden. She talked about Maya being the first person in years who'd asked what she wanted, who'd listened to her fears. "She's not trying to save me," Lily said, her voice steady despite her nerves. "We're helping each other, and I know she's young and doesn't have a lot of money, but she has something more important. She cares, really cares, and that's what I need." Maya watched from her seat, tears streaming down her face. She'd never heard anyone speak about her that way. Never had anyone defend her or choose her. It was overwhelming. The judge, a woman named Henderson with gray hair and a thoughtful expression, listened to everything. Then she spent what felt like an eternity reviewing documents and making notes. Finally, she looked up. "This is an unusual situation," Judge Henderson said. "Ms. Thompson, you're asking for a lot of responsibility with limited resources. Under normal circumstances, I'd be hesitant to approve this. However, these aren't normal circumstances. Lily has expressed a clear preference, and her history in foster care shows multiple failed placements. She's also nearly 16, old enough that her voice should carry significant weight." Maya held her breath. "I'm going to grant temporary guardianship for a period of 6 months. During that time, Ms. Thompson, you'll be subject to regular home visits and check-ins. You'll need to show that you can provide a stable environment. Lily will need to maintain regular school attendance and counseling sessions. If everything goes well, we'll revisit for a more permanent arrangement. If there are problems, we'll reassess. Is that clear?" "Yes, Your Honor," Maya managed to say, her voice shaking. "Thank you." Outside the courthouse, they hugged each other tightly. Patricia congratulated them, but also gave warnings about the challenges ahead. Maya barely heard her. All she could think about was that they'd won. Temporarily, at least. Lily wasn't being sent back. They had a chance. That night, Maya started looking at bigger apartments. She'd need that second job to afford it. But they needed more space. Lily needed her own room, a place that was really hers. Maya also started thinking about going back to school herself, maybe taking some online classes. If she was going to be someone's guardian, she wanted to be the best guardian she could be. She wanted to set an example, show Lily that it was never too late to work towards something better. The months that followed were the hardest Maya had ever experienced, but also the most rewarding. Working 2 jobs while trying to be present for a teenager was exhausting. There were nights she came home so tired she could barely stand. But Lily would be waiting, wanting to talk about her day or needing help with homework. Money was tight, tighter than it had ever been. There were moments Maya panicked, wondering how she'd make rent, how she'd afford groceries and school supplies and all the things Lily needed. But they made it work. Gloria at the diner, when she learned the full story, gave Maya more flexible hours. Some of the regular customers, hearing about her situation, started tipping better. Small kindnesses that added up. Maya found a larger apartment, still not fancy but with 2 bedrooms. The day they moved in, watching Lily set up her own room, arrange her drawings on the walls, Maya felt something she'd never felt before. She felt like she'd done something right. Something that mattered. Lily struggled sometimes. There were bad days when her past traumas surfaced, when she lashed out or withdrew. There were arguments and slammed doors and moments when Maya wondered if she was equipped to handle this. But they always worked through it. They talked, sometimes yelling, sometimes crying, but always talking, learning how to be honest with each other, how to communicate. The counseling sessions helped. Both of them went separately and together. Maya learned that her own childhood had left wounds she'd never properly addressed, that her sense of emptiness came from never feeling chosen, never feeling like she belonged. And now, in choosing Lily, in fighting for her, Maya was healing those old wounds. She was proving to herself that she was capable of love, of commitment, of being someone who mattered. As the 6-month review approached, Maya felt cautiously optimistic. They'd followed all the rules, met all the requirements. Lily was attending school regularly and her grades were improving. Their home visits had gone well. They'd built something real, something that worked. Not perfect, but real. The morning of the final guardianship hearing, Maya stood in front of the bathroom mirror trying to calm her nerves. 6 months had passed since Judge Henderson's temporary order. 6 months of the hardest work Maya had ever done. She'd learned more about herself in that time than in all her previous 23 years. Learned that she was stronger than she'd thought. That she could handle responsibility. That loving someone didn't make you weak. It made you brave. Lily appeared in the doorway, dressed in clothes they'd bought together for the hearing. Nothing fancy but neat and appropriate. She looked so different from the scared, soaked girl who'd been hiding behind a dumpster 6 months ago. She'd gained weight, her face fuller and healthier. Her hair was longer, styled. But more than the physical changes, there was something different in her eyes. A light that hadn't been there before. Hope, Maya realized. Lily looked like a kid who had hope. You ready? Lily asked. I should be asking you that. I'm ready. I've been ready for this my whole life. Lily smiled and Maya's heart swelled. I'm ready to have a real home. With you. Patricia met them at the courthouse looking pleased. I've reviewed everything, she said. The home visit reports are excellent. Lily's school records show significant improvement. Her counselor gave a glowing recommendation. Financially, you're still tight, but you've demonstrated that you can provide. I think we have a strong case. The courtroom was the same one where they'd had the temporary hearing. Judge Henderson presided again, reviewing the thick file of documents that represented the last 6 months of their lives. Maya's hands were sweating as she answered questions about their routine, about challenges they'd faced, about plans for the future. Then it was Lily's turn. The judge asked her about school, about living with Maya, about whether this was still what she wanted. It's absolutely what I want, Lily said firmly. Before Maya, I didn't think anyone would ever really want me. I thought I was just going to age out of the system like it was no big deal. But Maya showed me that family isn't just the one you're born into. It's the one you build. She chose me when nobody else did. And I choose her back. Maya had to wipe tears from her eyes. She caught Gloria sitting in the back of the courtroom, taking time off from the diner to be there. A few other people had come too. Neighbors from their apartment building, Lily's school counselor. People who'd become part of their support system, their extended family. Judge Henderson took her time reviewing everything. When she finally spoke, her voice was warm. 6 months ago, I took a chance on an unusual arrangement. Ms. Thompson, you were young and inexperienced and had limited resources. But you had something that can't be quantified in a background check. You had heart, and you've proven over these months that sometimes heart is enough. Maya's breath caught in her throat. Lily has thrived in your care. She's attending school regularly. Her grades have improved dramatically. And multiple reports indicate she's a different child than she was 6 months ago. More importantly, the bond between you two is evident. You've created a home together, not perfect, but real and loving. That's what matters most. The judge looked directly at Maya. I'm granting permanent legal guardianship. Lily will remain in your care until she reaches the age of majority. Congratulations to both of you. The courtroom erupted in quiet celebration. Patricia was shaking Maya's hand. Gloria was crying and laughing at the same time. But all Maya could focus on was Lily, who had thrown her arms around her and was holding on tight. We did it, Lily whispered. We're really a family now. We've been a family, Maya whispered back. This just makes it official. The weeks following the hearing were a blur of celebration and adjustment to their new reality. There was no more uncertainty hanging over them, no more review dates to worry about. They could just be Maya and Lily, guardian and ward, but more than that, family. Maya went back to taking just one full-time job at the diner, though she picked up occasional extra shifts when they needed the money. She enrolled in community college classes online, studying social work. She'd learned so much through this experience, and she wanted to use it to help other kids in the system. Maybe she could be the person for someone else that she'd needed when she was young. Lily continued to excel in school. Her drawings got better and better, and her English teacher encouraged her to apply to a summer art program. When the acceptance letter came, Lily danced around their apartment, and Maya felt proud in a way she'd never experienced before. This was what it meant to matter to someone. To watch them grow and flourish and know you'd played a part in that. One evening, about a year after that rainy night in the alley, they sat together on their couch eating pizza and watching a movie. It was such an ordinary moment, the kind of thing that happens in families everywhere. But to Maya it felt like a miracle. She thought about the girl she'd been just a year ago, going through the motions of life feeling empty and purposeless. That Maya could never have imagined this, could never have imagined feeling so full, so complete. "What are you thinking about?" Lily asked, noticing Maya's distant expression. "Just how different everything is now." "Better different or worse different?" "Better, definitely better." Maya smiled. "You know what's funny? I spent so long looking for my purpose, wondering what I was supposed to do with my life. And all along I think I was just waiting for you." Lily leaned against her shoulder. "I was waiting for you too. I just didn't know it." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the movie but not really paying attention. Maya thought about all the things she wanted to teach Lily, all the experiences she wanted to share with her, college applications and first jobs and heartbreaks and triumphs, all the milestones that would come. She thought about being there for all of it, about never leaving, about proving every single day that Lily was chosen and wanted and loved. "Hey, Maya," Lily said quietly. "Yeah? Thank you for not walking past me that night, for choosing me. Thank you for letting me, for trusting me even when you had no reason to." "I had a reason," Lily said. "I saw it in your eyes. You understood what it was like to be alone, and I think you needed me as much as I needed you." Maya realized that was true. She'd thought she was saving Lily, but really they'd saved each other. Two people who'd spent their lives feeling unwanted and invisible had found each other in a rainy alley and decided to build something together. A family, a home, a life that mattered. The next morning, Maya woke up to the smell of breakfast cooking. She stumbled into the kitchen to find Lily making pancakes, flour on her nose and a huge smile on her face. "Special occasion?" Maya asked. "Nope, just wanted to." Lily flipped a pancake expertly. "I figured you're always cooking for me. It's my turn." They ate breakfast together, making plans for the day. Lily needed supplies for a school project. Maya wanted to stop by the library to return some books. Normal, everyday things, but to Maya they felt extraordinary. This was the life she'd never dared to dream of. This warmth, this connection, this sense of belonging. Later that afternoon, as they walked through the neighborhood together, Maya noticed other people watching them. A mother and daughter, someone probably thought. And in every way that mattered, that's exactly what they were. Not by blood, but by choice, by commitment, by love that had grown in unexpected places. That night, after Lily had gone to bed, Maya sat alone in the living room and thought about where she'd been and where she was now. She thought about the girl who'd cried herself to sleep in a studio apartment, wondering if her life would ever mean something. She thought about the moment in the alley when she'd made a choice that changed everything, and she realized that she'd been looking at it all wrong. She'd spent years feeling empty because she'd been looking for something to fill her. But the truth was simpler and more profound. The emptiness had been there because she'd needed to make room. Room for someone else. Room for love. Room for family. In saving Lily, Maya had discovered her own value. She'd learned that she was capable of so much more than she'd believed, that she could be strong and patient and loving, that she could be someone's home, someone's safe place. And in being that for Lily, she'd found what she'd been missing all along. Purpose isn't always something you find. Sometimes it's something that finds you. Sometimes it appears in the most unexpected places. Behind a dumpster in the rain, in the eyes of a scared teenager who just needs someone to choose her. And sometimes the best way to save yourself is to reach out your hand to someone else who's drowning. Maya turned off the lights and checked on Lily one last time before bed. The girl was sleeping peacefully, her drawings on the wall catching the moonlight from the window. Maya stood in the doorway, overwhelmed with gratitude for this imperfect, beautiful life they'd built together. "Good night, sweetheart," she whispered, though Lily couldn't hear. And for the first time in her life, Maya went to sleep feeling truly, completely at peace. She wasn't alone anymore. Neither of them were. They'd found each other, chosen each other, and built something that would last. A family forged not by circumstance or obligation, but by the simple, powerful act of showing up for someone who needed you. This orphan's life had been empty, but not anymore. Now it was full of all the things that truly mattered: love, purpose, connection, home.